I am the punishment of God. If you had not committed great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me upon you. With these words, Attila the Hun ignited fear across the ancient world, a tempest that swept through empires.
Breathe in.
Each invasion echoed terror, marking him as a symbol of destruction. The 5th century saw the Roman Empire, once a bastion of power, unraveling through internal strife and political corruption. As its legions faltered, wave after wave of tribes surged toward its borders, and in this chaos, Attila emerged, his eyes set on the heart of Rome. Attila's rise was meteoric. A man of small stature, he united the disparate tribes of the Huns into a formidable coalition, wielding fear as a weapon. His name struck terror across the lands, and in 451, his forces descended upon Gaul, igniting a brutal campaign that culminated in the Battle of Chalons, a confrontation that would redefine civilization. The battlefield resonated with clashing swords and cries of warriors. Attila's tactical genius shone through as he maneuvered his forces. The outcome of this battle would either cement his legacy or lead to his downfall. As the dust settled, this conflict altered the course of history. What followed was not just the decline of an empire, but the rise of a legacy. The fear Attila instilled resonated through centuries, shaping perceptions and challenging our understanding of power. His reign pushes us to reflect on leadership and the consequences of ambition. Born around 406 AD, Attila emerged as a leader of the Huns, mastering horseback warfare. Initially, he ruled jointly with his brother Bleda, but after Bleda's mysterious death in 445 AD, Attila became the sole ruler. His campaigns for tribute sowed dread across Europe, his psychological warfare as potent as his military might. In 447 AD, the Huns invaded the Eastern Roman Empire, sweeping through the Balkans, leaving cities in flames. In Constantinople, desperation led to negotiations, but Attila, a master tactician, leveraged these discussions to extract monumental tributes. Ambition drove him westward toward Rome. In 452 AD, he crossed the Alps, confronting the very heart of the empire. As he approached Rome, destruction loomed large, but Pope Leo I intervened, persuading Attila to withdraw, a rare moment where diplomacy triumphed over force. Attila returned home, yet cracks appeared in his dominion. The fear that united his subjects began to sow discord. By 453 AD, when he died unexpectedly during a night of celebration, a power vacuum formed. His empire crumbled under internal strife and external pressures, but his legacy would endure, shaping narratives of future conquests. Contemplating Attila's life reminds us that the balance of power is a delicate dance between fear and strategy. His story urges reflection on ambition's dual edge and how the pursuit of power can lead to monumental victories and tragic downfalls. The Battle of Chalons in 451 AD defined his essence. On the battlefield, Attila was poised for dominance, a figure of wrath and resolve, leading the Huns against the Romans united under General Flavius Aetius. The air thickened with tension, a clash of ideologies, Huns' fierce independence against Rome's crumbling authority. On that fateful day, the sun rose ominously over the plains of Chalons, a muted gold casting long shadows over the assembled armies. The scent of prepared leather, sweat, and impending violence hung heavily in the air as warriors prepared for the clash of destinies. Attila, mounted on his dark stallion, exuded an aura of command. His piercing gaze swept over his troops, rallying their spirits. "We will show the world the strength of the Huns," he bellowed, his voice raw and impassioned, igniting a combustible fervor in the hearts of his men. As the battle erupted, Attila's strategic prowess became evident, orchestrating attacks that exploited weaknesses. His cavalry surged forward, a whirlwind of motion and ferocity, sending ripples of fear through Roman lines. The Huns employed their signature tactics, swift flanking maneuvers, feigned retreats, and relentless aggression. Each clash of swords rang out like a death knell for Roman pride, as the inhabitants of the empire began to realize their vulnerability. Yet Aetius, understanding the stakes, rallied his forces, fighting for survival and legacy. Armed with years of experience and an understanding of Roman fortitude, Aetius utilized his knowledge of the terrain to create defensive positions that countered Attila's ferocity. The Romans fought valiantly, their backs against the tide of history, desperate to protect what remained of their crumbling empire. The outcome was no mere military engagement, it was a moment of existential reckoning for both sides. The ground soaked up the blood of countless men, a brutal testament to ambition and survival. In the end, neither side emerged victorious, but the Romans tasted the bitterness of fear. Attila retreated, but the message was clear: he would not be easily dismissed, and the specter of his ambition would linger. In the aftermath of his campaigns, Attila's legacy grew complex. He conquered lands and hearts through fear, teaching us that ambition carries great responsibility. The empire he built was fragile, held together by terror. His leadership style, while effective, revealed the cracks of an empire forged in the fires of dread and hostility, leaving echoes of his reign that resonate through history. With every victory, Attila's mythos expanded. He became not only a conqueror but a demonized figure, a representation of cruelty and savagery. His people revered him, yet they lived in the shadow of his insatiable ambition. Though he was their king, the constant threat of violence and warfare painted a chilling portrait of leadership. Attila's life serves as a cautionary tale about the toll of ambition and terror. His methods cast shadows on the principles of leadership today, reminding us that the pursuit of power should not come at the expense of compassion. As we navigate the complexities of leadership in our modern world, Attila's strategies compel us to reflect critically on our paths. Are we fostering growth or perpetuating cycles of fear? Attila's campaigns began in earnest around 434 AD when he took command of the Huns following the death of his brother Bleda. The Huns, once a disjointed group of tribes, became a relentless force, striking fear into the hearts of their enemies. Within just a few years, Attila's resolve transformed the Huns into an empire of terror, one that demanded tribute and respect from neighboring civilizations. The Eastern Roman Empire quickly learned the consequences of defiance as cities fell before the might of Attila's warbands. In the spring of 447, Attila assembled his vast army, moving with a speed and ferocity that left the Eastern Roman forces scrambling. His relentless march through the Balkans was marked by flames and despair, as cities fell and populations were displaced. The rich lands of Thrace and Macedonia yielded to his wrath, their once thriving regions now reduced to ashes and mourning. Historians estimate that during this campaign, hundreds of thousands fled or were slaughtered, leaving a scar upon the landscape that would take generations to heal. As Attila descended upon the gates of Constantinople, the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, the tension reached a fever pitch. The emperor, Theodosius II, was desperate. He knew that his empire was at a breaking point. The walls of Constantinople, strong and imposing, now seemed like a flimsy barrier against the storm wrought by Attila. The emperor's advisors urged him to abandon the city, fearing that its fall would be inevitable. But Theodosius chose diplomacy over despair, sending envoys to negotiate with the dreaded king. Attila, keen to exploit the situation, recognized the leverage he held. His demands were substantial: land, gold, and annual tribute, but he was in no mood for mercy. The Huns had tasted blood, and the world had to feel their strength. His cunning was a hallmark of his leadership. Rather than simply destroy an adversary, he would leave them crippled, with a long-lasting fear of his might. As the negotiations unfolded, Attila sat with a fierce expression, reveling in the tension. He understood that fear was his greatest weapon, more than any sword could wield. The more he pressed his demands, the more desperate the Romans became. The Byzantine emperor ultimately acquiesced, agreeing to a staggering tribute. In exchange, Attila withdrew, leaving not just a humbled city but a deeply scarred empire in his wake. This calculated retreat marked a pivotal moment in Attila's reign. While some may have viewed it as a sign of weakness, it was anything but. It showcased his strategic brilliance, knowing when to withdraw to preserve his strength and when to unleash his fury. Such decisions would define his legacy, marking him not merely as a conqueror but as a master of the art of war. Yet as his power expanded, so too did his internal struggles. The very fear that had united the diverse tribes of the Huns began to breed conflict. While Attila demanded absolute loyalty, whispers of dissent grew louder. The tribal leaders, though terrified of his wrath, began to question his authority. By the time of his death, there were factions within his realm, each vying for power, and the seeds of division had taken root. Attila's life culminated in a shocking demise, his unexpected death during a grand feast on March 16, 453 AD. He had just married a new wife, a young woman named Ildiko, yet in the celebration that followed, he collapsed, succumbing to a fatal nosebleed. It was a dramatic end for a man who had shaped the world through violence and fear. His followers were left bewildered, caught between their reverence for their leader and the chaos that unfolded in his absence. In the wake of his death, the empire he had built crumbled rapidly. The fear that had once held the Huns together transformed into a struggle for power. Without Attila's unyielding presence, rival factions emerged, and the tribes fell to infighting. The Huns once feared across Europe were now a shadow of their former selves, their unity shattered by the very ambition that had propelled them to greatness. In this way, Attila's life serves as a reminder of the fragility of power and the consequences of unchecked ambition. The legacy of his reign is woven into the fabric of history, a complex tapestry of triumph and tragedy. He was a man who conquered through fear, yet his methods ultimately sowed division. As we contemplate the echoes of Attila's reign, we must recognize that the consequences of ambition stretch far beyond the battlefield. The choices we make today shape our societies, influencing generations to come. Attila's story bids us ask, how do we wield power in our lives? Are we fostering unity, or are we perpetuating division? His story challenges us to examine our values and the impact of our actions. Will we choose to lead with courage and compassion, striving for collective growth? Or will we, blinded by ambition, replicate the cycles of fear that Attila so ruthlessly embodied? As we navigate our paths, let us draw strength from history, looking not only at the victories but also at the lessons wrapped within the calamities of past leaders. Attila's life is a stark reminder that the pursuit of power should come with a deep sense of responsibility. His legacy endures not merely as a testament to his conquests but as a mirror reflecting the complexities of ambition and authority. Thus, let us turn now to the crucial question of responsibility. Attila was not merely a product of his time, he was a harbinger of the complexities that arise when ambition fuels a relentless quest for dominance. As we survey our histories, both ancient and contemporary, we must ponder, what legacy do we hope to carve into the annals of time? The choices we make echo through the corridors of history, shaping destinies yet unseen. Attila's life compels us to assume responsibility for our influence. With each choice we make, we add to the narrative of humanity, striving for a legacy of justice, equity, and compassion. Are we seeking to empower others, to raise voices that have long been silenced? Or do we, in some way, replicate the patterns of domination that Attila so ruthlessly embodied? In contemplating Attila's reign, we are reminded that leadership is not merely about authority or conquest, it is a profound responsibility. It demands a reflection on the ethics of power, the consequences of our actions, and the narratives we choose to perpetuate. Let us learn from history, let us strive not to repeat the cycles of despair but to forge a future where power is wielded with wisdom and integrity. Therefore, we must ponder, what legacy will we leave behind? History is more than events, it's about choices, shaping our collective future. The lessons drawn from Attila's turbulent life guide us in our present, challenging us to choose paths that enlighten rather than darken the world around us. As we carve our paths in history, let us remember that each decision shapes the legacy we bequeath to those who come after us, a legacy that should inspire, unite, and uplift. Thus, we must ask ourselves, in our pursuit of greatness, will we build bridges or walls? Will we